wanted to let you know there is now a new Phenotype February homepage on odyssey.org. It has the calendar of events, direct links to all of the different phenotypes being discussed on the forums, as well as the community discussions. There's some great videos. We'll put up the weekly update on the community call, but also there's really good discussions happening within the phenotype work groups, on teams, how the evaluation process is going. So there's a lot of great things. Please do check out that web page. You can find it on the news and updates or just on that link. Check it out, and please do contribute to these discussions. On that note, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'll turn it to Patrick.
Great, thanks, Craig. I just want to remind everybody that it's Valentine's Day, and there's nothing more romantic to get your partner than an ongoing debate about phenotype development and evaluation. So if you're looking for a way to swoon your loved one, take a look at the Odyssey forums and take a look at some of the work that's been done in our community. I'm going to hand over to Azza and Gowtham to go through what we've done this last week and what we're doing this week. But I just want to restate that the Phenotype February, our whole point of doing this is to provide a place for our community to really hunker down and focus on learning and contributing to our thinking about advancing the science of phenotyping and to get work done on developing phenotypes. And I'm really grateful for those who have been contributing, and also want to implore the rest of you to think about how you can contribute to this process to learn and participate in part of this journey. We made Azza and Gowtham have been doing a great job, but there's a place for all of you to participate. So I want to encourage you to be thinking about that as Azza reviews what happens this last week, and Gowtham tells you what we're doing heading into week 3. Go ahead, Azza.
Thank you, Patrick. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. So this is what happened in week 2. That is last week of Phenotype February. On Monday of last week, we discussed systemic lupus erythematosus, SLE, where Dr. Joel Swerdel gave us proposed a phenotype algorithm, and he went and evaluated that phenotype through cohort diagnostics and PheValuator. Dr. Danny Alhambra then went over and did a peer review for the phenotype proposed, and end up with accepting the phenotype with few questions. So now we have an accepted SLE phenotype in our Odyssey phenotype library. So great job for Dr. Swerdel and Dr. Alhambra for getting this phenotype to be done, and a very nice discussion on the forum. Then in the middle of the week, we started talking about acute hepatic failure. That was a phenotype algorithm that was proposed to the phenotype or submitted to the phenotype library. Dr. Christian Reich took us into reviewing the proposed phenotype and then proposing 3 different flavors or 3 different phenotypes for acute hepatic failure, depending on the use case, and gave his review and on his opinion about the topic. So Dr. Christian Reich, are you on the call?
Yep, I just have to find the
Yes.
mute button.
I forgot to give Joel time to give us his feedback on SLE, but I'll go back to yeah. No, Christian Reich is here, so I'll go back to you, Joel, in a minute. Sorry about that. I was so excited to listen. Okay, Dr. Christian Reich, tell us about what you think about the experience with hepatic failure and where we are.
Yeah, Joel, of course, is much less controversial, so that's what you're looking for. Interesting journey that is indeed to do this, and I can actually only recommend people to do this exercise. Not only will it give a phenotype that we can use or that we can be inspired by, it actually is going to teach you a lot of things that you have to think about when you do it systematically. When there's a study, you just run, right? You say, oh, this is what I need, and then I pick the concepts, and then I do some criteria here and there, and quick, and everything is under time pressure. And this one here is maybe also under time pressure, but in a different way, and it's much more systematic, and it opens your eyes of what the pitfalls actually are, and what you can do and what you can't do, and what you see and what you can't see. So in particular, In this particular case, you have, for example, in this particular case, you have a situation that there is a clear definition of the condition. Okay, so it's an acute thing. A healthy liver suddenly goes bad. Okay, but then if you look, that a lot of the people who get the diagnosis, they have, lots of problems with the liver before, and they're alcoholics and so on and so on. So now what? So then it immediately becomes, and then there are things like, acute liver failure because of drug, or because of, mushroom toxin, or because of pregnancy. And then you're saying, wait, I because of pregnancy, I can't use it if I do drug research. So then it becomes dependent on what you're actually going to use the phenotype for, and it's going to end up, you would end up with a different choice. Of course, we can make more than one, and saying this is what Danny calls the flavors, right? If it's an outcome flavor, then use these ones, because there we exclude the ones for which we have a cause given. If it's a target one, then we include it, because it doesn't matter, the liver is down and we are trying to treat the liver. So you have to do that, and then you're thinking about that, thinking, oh, now I'm onto something. I know what to do here, what to do there, and then you look at the data, and that turn out there's actually no different, because nobody uses those funny concepts. So all your effort in splitting this up nicely is in vain, because actually, in reality, it doesn't make much sense to the people who do the coding and reporting on the patients. So you're in a cold and hot shower all the time. Oh, I'm onto something, and we should do it always this way. And then you do it, and you realize, well, actually, it's not. It's not. This is a dead end. Okay, and maybe we should focus on something else. What I do like about this last sentence, what I do like about this one here is that we actually get to debate this. So this is a really cool idea that Azza and Gowtham had, is to make people do the work and at the same time bring up the issues and discuss them in a systematic way. I think that's been very insightful.
Thank you so much. And I would say that the next steps for us for hepatic failure, Christian already proposed 3 definitions that he already developed and implemented, and we are in the process of doing the evaluation, so we can get a full evaluation completed and submitted for Patrick to give a peer review on those phenotypes. So we have an acute hepatic failure phenotypes, plural this time, for the community to maybe consider using for future researchers. Thank you very much. Joel, let me go back to you and tell us what would you like to share with the community about systematic lupus erythematosus and your done phenotype.
Yeah, so the thing I'm going to point out is just the importance of the process that we've now developed for phenotype development, and the way that it made the process much easier. We know where to start. We start with the literature review, we move on to things like PheVe and things like that. So it's a known it's a pretty well known process, and it makes it much more straightforward to develop the phenotypes for this. Plus, we have to give shout outs to all the people who developed the tools like PheVe and cohort diagnostics and other things that we use, Atlas particularly, for developing this stuff. Obviously we're new in line for creating a phenotype process, but I think we've gotten pretty far into it for now. As far as the process goes, Danny is unfortunately away today. I'd like to heard what he thought about from the review process. But the other thing was, because of this process, this SLE phenotype is now going to be a published paper as of the 16th, 2 days from now. So we'll be putting out a note about that one.
So yeah, an early shout out for Joel to get this in the public domain with the publication on it. And that would be, Joel, I think our first or second formal paper on the Odyssey phenotype development and evaluation, fully using cohort diagnostics and PheValuator as a means of evaluation.
And yep, and Phoebe, don't forget Phoebe.
And Phoebe, yeah. So that's great. I think I'll leave the publication talk to Gowtham in the next slide, because you're going to be our role model, and we're going to try to do this for all these phenotypes. So, okay. Towards the end of the week, we started a very interesting work on idiopathic inflammatory myopathies. I'm very interested to this because I had no idea about what this clinical idea was, and a clinical group from John Hopkins with the lead from Dr. Christopher Mecoli, who today is not on the call because he has to be on the clinic. But they develop phenotypes for idiopathic inflammatory myopathies. The update on this is that we had multiple phenotype algorithms that they wanted to evaluate. And last year on the phenotype evaluation work group session meeting, we actually went through evaluating using cohort diagnostic one of their phenotype algorithms, and we made some learnings. The group decided they want to iterate further on the phenotype definitions, and that's what they're currently doing. And I know Astia is waiting patiently to get her material to do the peer review, so we can learn about idiopathic inflammatory myopathies and have a phenotype definition ready for the community to use in the library. Gowtham, can you give us, I know you're very heavily involved in that work, given that Dr. Christopher is not here, can you give us a flavor of what's going on and what's interesting about this phenotype?
Absolutely. Thank you, Azza. So this has been a tremendous learning for me because this is an extremely rare disease, and to have an opportunity to work with a clinician who's actually treating patients with this condition and to observe the reaction of this clinician as they evaluate the cohort definitions using cohort diagnostics was very rewarding to me. Several insights. The phenotype development evaluation work group worked with Dr. Mecoli and his team, and to review the cohorts, they observed in the cohort diagnostics tool the proportion of persons who had the antibody testing done. We observed the presence of results for this antibody. But a very interesting aha moment was when we observed that the persons who had these conditions were associated with breast cancer. And that was expected, and it helped us feel that this is a specific definition. That is, the persons who are identified by the cohort definition truly have the condition. Breast cancer and inflammatory dermatomyositis are related in the sense that they have a paraneoplastic manifestations from breast cancer. So I learned a lot from this, and we'll continue to work with Dr. Mecoli and his team to get this to completion.
Perfect, thank you. So in addition to these three phenotypes, we also kicked off a debate last week about chart reviews as a gold standard for validation versus innovative method like PheValuator and so forth. And we had a nice discussion. I know some people on the forum tried to be provocative and provided some references on how other scientists think of the gold standard and how it should be done. I think that is a very interesting perspective that we all should think about as we try to move the science forward for phenotype development and evaluation. So the discussion is still open. Please, we also got, before I forget, we also got an input about this process from Dr. Christopher about their way of doing a chart review, which is slightly different than the traditional conventional way, and they did it, and he provides a great example of how can we do this in a more scalable and feasible way that can help us get better in the process. So thank you about that, and let's go for what's happening this week.
Yeah, so what is happening this week? So as you all know, this is week 3. Week 3, we're going into more advanced phenotyping. In week 3, we are focusing on executing the one or more core definitions on a network of data sources, conducting an evaluation, and then starting a peer review process. Dr. Alan Wu has made tremendous progress in the last few weeks for the clinical idea of Parkinson's. If you see his forum post, he starts with a clinical description, but then after working with the Phenotype Development Evaluation Work Group, he has described the clinical idea that we're targeting as the classic, typical idiopathic Parkinson's disease. We have identified two previously published algorithms that were attempted to replicate using Odyssey tools. These are the unanimity definition and the tiered definition. The tiered definition is much more complex than what the standard Odyssey tools could support. So we have some ideas on how to solve that. But Dr. Alan Wu has made progress on implementing the unanimity definition, and this is currently undergoing evaluation using the output of cohort diagnostics. Expect a forum post sometime soon this week. Also this week is ST elevated myocardial infarction. The field of ST elevated myocardial infarction has evolved from the time that I went into residency training, and to hear from Dr. Mirza Khan, who's a cardiologist, about what the current state is about ST elevation of myocardial infarction was very rewarding to me. We have a recording on the Odyssey forums of collaboration between Dr. Mirza Khan and the Phenotype Work Group of how to operationalize the clinical idea into Atlas compatible cohort definition. Currently, Dr. Khan is making progress on implementing the cohort definition on Atlas demo.odyssey.org. Dr. Khan, if you're on the call, could you give us your perspective on the progress you've made so far on phenotype development?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Mirza, a longtime listener, first-time caller. I think it's just been really fantastic and to make so much progress within a relatively short period of time, working with Gowtham and others, not only building the phenotype kind of in a systematic way, but also even just being able to learn from these shared experiences from some of the other folks building distinct phenotypes, but the lessons I think are very generalizable. Right. And so it's kind of embarrassing for me to kind of say, but, before this, I would kind of work without many of the Odyssey tools, and I would just kind of work with Athena, figure out what the hierarchies are and the concept codes, go back to SQL, do some joins with the concept table. And it was very embarrassing to say this, but, working with Atlas, I think even just kind of putting all of these things together with the concept sets and cohorts and whatnot, it's been a dream, right? And not only does it make me so much more efficient, but I'm also able to then export things to JSON or to SQL, and it's really made kind of working with the team and collaborating a lot better. And then the other thing that I think has come out, given the acuity of this particular condition, kind of learning some of the lessons or the differences between V5, V6, and kind of the date time stamps, and some of those kinds of things, which I think gave me a lot of food for thought for sure. And then another wrinkle that kind of came up as we're going through these things is data quality and data granularity, which could obviously vary depending on which data set that you're using, be it EHR for a single center versus the VA where we've got multiple institutions, or claims data. So I think it really kind of forces us to think a little bit more deeply about the phenotypes that we're building, and it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how that all shakes out.
Great, thank
you. But looking
Dr.
forward
Khan.
to working with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Khan, Dr. Khan. And this week, as part of the debates, we are going to be talking about a very, very important topic: customized cohort definitions that is built based on the study use case, or standardized approach that is based on a clinical idea. So we are looking forward to this discussion in the Odyssey forums this week. Also, this week, as part of the Phenotype Development Evaluation Work Group, we will be tackling the problem of executing Odyssey packages cohort diagnostics PheValuator on a network of data sources. So if you are a data partner who would like to learn how to execute cohort diagnostics or PheValuator, this week is the opportunity to collaborate and to make progress on that. Also, what is happening this week is the topics related to week 1. We are continuing to make progress on week 1 topics. For example, Dr. Andrea Noel has asked for revise and resubmit. The work group has worked to check some of the issues that was raised, and we have found reasons to make changes to the definitions. So those will be also discussed as part of the work group. And finally, we need volunteers. The week 3, Dr. Alan Wu has made tremendous progress and will be posting his evaluation soon, but we need a peer reviewer to look at the work that Dr. Alan Wu has done and provide their input. So we're calling for volunteers for this particular task.
That should be done for us. The one thing, Gowtham, you forgot to mention is all the 10 phenotypes. Actually, we have 11 phenotypes, but all the phenotypes that we are working on as part of Phenotype February, all the leads have taken the decision to take this into manuscripts. So we will have 10 manuscripts that we will be kicking off, led by the clinical partners who proposed and led the work. And we will provide them support, but we are very excited about this going into the public domain. Let the people that worked hard on it, and of course, open it up for any data partner who wants to join running cohort diagnostics or PheValuator and joining the development to be part of those publications. And that's it for us.
Great, thank you so much, Gowtham and Azza. First of all, thank you for this is an incredible effort that you're leading. So you may want to leave right now, but thank you for leading it, and to all the volunteers who are taking part and leading the individual phenotypes or the peer review or just contributing their thoughts. Please do check out that webpage, check out the threads, check out the videos. They're really interesting discussions. I think you can learn something from them and contribute. Please do contribute because this is a group effort.